Hi, I'm Steph, Senior Assistant Psychologist at Lexxic, and today I'm joined with Kieran. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Kieran. Currently a student at the University of Huddersfield, but I'm about to start a graduate job at Microsoft.
Brill. So can you tell me about your journey to receiving the diagnosis of dyslexia, please?
Yeah, no, of course. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia as soon as I started university. I always had an incline that I was maybe dyslexic, but because I didn't voice any of my concerns during my normal years of education, my school felt that I wasn't worth the investment of the funds to fully diagnose dyslexia. So it wasn't until I pursued it with the university that I managed to find out that I was dyslexic.
Wow. So you found that you had inklings and potentially your school had inklings, but
Yeah.
the funding potentially just wasn't there in order for you to get that diagnosis?
Yeah, definitely. Because I was always good at the academic side of it, so I could keep on getting the grades.
You wouldn't worry either.
They weren't. I wasn't really a worry.
Yeah.
So they kind of just left me to it and felt that
Yeah.
occasionally I was, words used a lot in parents even put lazy,
Yeah.
can't spell.
Yeah.
Occasionally gets distracted very easily, and they were just kind of negative correlations about me.
Yeah.
Which when you're told that through every year, going through on parents' evenings and stuff, you start to believe it a little bit and you think,
Definitely.
okay.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I know definitely my mum was very concerned. She was thinking, you're going to waste his potential, you're not on task, or you're not keeping much attention. When in reality it was none of those things. It's just that my type of how I learn wasn't the way that schools try and teach the majority.
Yeah.
But because I was getting the good grades, they left me to it.
Yeah.
And just thought he's doing his own thing.
Yeah. And do you feel like as a result of hearing those terms, lazy, your confidence potentially got knocked at some point?
Yeah, there were some stages where there was definitely a dip in my performance.
Yeah.
Probably around the kind of middle of high schoolish, where you hear all these terms a lot, and when people say it to you a lot, you start to believe what they're saying.
Yes, definitely.
And it definitely was a confidence knock.
Yes, okay. And you did actually mention about how people learn different ways just then slightly. Can you tell me a bit more about your ideas behind learning styles and things like that?
Yeah, so I believe that everyone's got their own kind of different learning styles. And the way that schools could try and teach is to teach the majority, so everyone kind of has a similar learning style normally of they'll get taught something on the board and then it's all about writing that down and be able to repeat that information.
Very well.
But there's a lot of people, especially with things like dyslexia, where that's not the same case. So I see myself as a learning style of I like to do things.
Yes.
If I'm not doing something, I won't pick it up.
Quite practical.
Very practical, which I've found that being in the workplace or even at university, I'm a lot more engaged because it's all about grabbing the bits that intrigue me, going out and doing it, and then if I can't do it or there's something not quite right there, then I can go back and tweak it slightly.
Perfect.
Whereas the majority, again, will learn from looking at a board and then be able to just straight up repeat that information.
Yeah.
But I think everyone has just different learning styles. I don't think anyone is necessarily, dumb or lazy.
Yeah.
It's just that they've got a different way of learning it. And if you don't adapt to or don't identify the way that you learn early on, then that can almost in a way you're quite resistant to learning because you don't find it easy.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for a lot of people where they've not found that learning style and they just give up because it's way too hard for them to learn in that very specific style.
Yeah, and I come across, obviously, with the line of work that I do come across a lot of people who have gone through academia and the grades aren't what is expected or what they expected to get, but they're still completely intelligent, they still do really, really well in their job role. It potentially is what you mentioned there, that potentially that learning or the way they absorb information just wasn't adapted to them at that time, so they couldn't necessarily show their potential on paper, but face to face.
Yeah, and I think with work, a lot of companies now, it's all about how an individual wants to learn. And there's a lot of freedom around how they're given a job or a job role, and it's up to them how they go out and do it.
Yeah.
So one person having one job if someone else came and did that exact same role, they're not necessarily going to do it in the exact same way.
Yeah.
And I think that type of freedom allows for a lot more creativity, and a lot more openness in that type of learning style coming to the fray.
Yeah.
While with schools, it's very much this is what you're getting given, and you've just got to repeat the information that's there. Like I look at my school days and my days in work, and they are completely different. But I feel the benefits of it. Being in work now, I feel a lot more creative, a lot more open, and a lot more confident.
Good, that's brilliant. Yeah.
So,
what do you think we could potentially do, or what do you think schools, or what maybe something your school could have done to potentially maybe support you a little bit better?
I think that schools are under a lot of pressure with a lot, especially state schools, with the kind of funding that they're getting. So I can kind of see a little bit of logic in where if someone's still getting the grades, they don't plough as much resources into them, because it's essentially they're still performing to the standards. But I think that because of that, there's a flip side of it, and there's a lot more that parents can do in that, looking at it and sometimes even identifying that your child doesn't learn in the same way, so doing some learning style stuff, and there's plenty of books and stuff are out there that you can read. And looking at that a little bit more, and then whether it's doing extra stuff at home. So I used to do a lot of stuff with my mum, and that was all about practically doing stuff. And she used to try her best with revision. She wasn't.
Sounds like she's really aware.
She was quite aware, and she did as much as she could. But being able to apply that in after school, sometimes that helps, or even parents pushing schools more, because if a parent is aware of it or has an inkling, even just pushing the school that little bit, they're going to pay more attention to a parent than they are going to do a child that says to a teacher, I don't get this, because that could mean anything. There's so many kids that just say, oh, I don't get this, miss or mister, and the default kind of mechanism for teachers is to go, oh, okay, well, you need to do a bit more work outside or a bit more work into it, because they're under that much strain that they sometimes miss those signs or symptoms. So parents definitely can play a little bit more of a role. But I think it also comes back to the individual and being able to, one, identify that you're not learning in that way. A lot of it comes down to yourself and what you think and believe. I didn't pick that up for quite a number of years. I just thought I was really bad at spelling, I was quite dumb. When in reality that's not the case. I just needed my own belief in myself and to go out there and find my own kind of mechanisms for revision and ways of picking it up. So it's about being able to identify with yourself about what maybe you need, and being able to be resourceful and find those resources where you can, or even knowing when to ask for help. There's plenty of teachers, if you went up to them at the end of class maybe and just said, I'm really struggling with this kind of method, a lot of teachers will start to invest time, but a teacher might not necessarily pick up on it if you don't say anything.
So from the sounds of things, it will all start from the individual, the student themselves, to have that little bit of awareness, and that's probably the foundation that maybe then you can start to build upon and look at things a bit further, and then, like I said, ask questions where you can and what you can do, and find out what else is out there to support you, I guess. So we touched a little bit on work just then, we mentioned earlier. What's been your own experience of job search and things like that? How have you looked into finding jobs? Have you mentioned dyslexia? How have you gone about it?
So I've had a few different job roles in my very short career so far, and I'll be honest, I've never, at the end of it, they always ask the question, do you have any sort of learning difficulties? And I've always said no, or I prefer not to say. I've never said, in fear of it affecting my application in a way, because you always hear about the stories and the statistics around it, which shouldn't be the case. And when I was at Microsoft the first year, I spent the majority of it just getting along with my work. I made my manager aware that I am a bit dyslexic. And then it wasn't until probably about 3/4 of the way through, I posted a video about it, and kind of, in a way, announced to the world I am dyslexic. And I had a lot of people come up to me in the office just saying, wow, I never would have guessed it.
Wow, really?
You've inspired me, and a few other people also said I'm actually dyslexic.
That's brilliant.
So it's almost like it is a bit of a leap of faith if you
Yeah.
tell people and you don't feel completely ready.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are super supportive about it,
Yeah.
especially at work. There are more. It's not in the same way as in kind of a school environment where it's seen as a bad thing. It's seen as, you know, there's negative correlations to it. There's no social impact. You know, at work, people are a lot more mature, and suddenly it's not that kind of childish school ground games of, oh, I'm not talking to him because he's a bit different. It's nothing like that. And in a lot of ways, I've had people come up to me, ask me for my own opinion on a project because I almost see it in a different angle. So a few terms that I've seen thrown around LinkedIn is stuff like dyslexic thinking. I think Richard Branson used it. And it's that idea that we'll work in the exact same way in some ways, but we see stuff a little bit differently. So we think a little bit more outside the box. Not necessarily going to think of the most obvious answer all the time, which is sometimes what you need in a work environment, which is why it's great to have a mixed range of different abilities in an office environment, especially in teamwork, because some of different people's strengths and different people's weaknesses
bounce off of one another,
can
with
bounce
different
off each
ideas,
other.
different thinking styles, different ways of going about things. Hopefully, there's only benefits that can come off a result of
exactly.
different
And I don't
ideas.
think a learning difficulty. I think difficulty is probably the wrong term because it's not a bad thing to have. You just have different strengths and different weaknesses to other people that don't have dyslexia, for example. But there's plenty of other ones out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is that awareness of what the strengths are that come along with dyslexia, that maybe not everybody realises that with dyslexia there's so many other strengths that come along with it. It doesn't affect intelligence, it is just that different way of thinking, and the result of that, lots of ideas, lots of teamwork means that you can just progress in a really nice way.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any sort of tips potentially for anyone looking to sort of get a diagnosis, or would you sort of recommend it? What would you say to someone thinking about getting a diagnosis?
I think if you think that you are dyslexic or have some sort of special educational needs, I think it's good to go out and get that diagnosis if you can, because it allows for closure in other ways. Because if you don't know and you always just suspect something, it's that aspect of not knowing, and it can drive some people a bit crazy, insane. Whereas if you know, you get lots of access to lots of different support tools and literature and stuff that can help. And I think it allows you to figure out what's your strengths and what your weaknesses are a lot better. You know, some people that have got dyslexia are completely different to me. Even though I've got dyslexia, like there's different strengths completely. I know a lot of people who are dyslexic that don't like standing up and talking in front of crowds, whereas I used to be like that, working on that weakness of mine. I now love it. I can stand up and talk in front of anyone as long as I know what I'm talking about. So I think not only do you get that closure, but you also get a network of other people that are similar to you, or you can understand better where your strengths and weaknesses are compared to people that don't. When I came out and I started talking to my colleagues, it was only then I realised some of the stuff that I'm really good at this, and the rest of my team are really bad at it. And that's where stuff like mentoring can come into place, because suddenly you've got a skill that another colleague of yours doesn't have, and vice versa. So you can start talking and mentorships where both parties can bring something to each other. And I find that, especially with people that were way more senior than me, so suddenly coming to me because I'd come out and made this brave leap of faith, and suddenly my name was known, and they were like, actually, I could learn something from this, from this guy, which create great opportunities just from taking that leap.
It sounds like it. So would you say you've had quite a positive experience by potentially letting your workplace know that you are dyslexic?
Yeah, definitely. It's opened me up to a lot of different opportunities that I don't think I would have got if I'd have been quite as reserved with it. But there's definitely that both sides of the coin. In the workplace, it's definitely a much better positive. But in schools, it's definitely still a negative. And I think of my background of growing up, definitely some negative experiences in there, but it's the negative experiences that make the good experiences. So I think at any time you're ever having a negative experience with it, just remember there is, over that hill, it's a way,
that's lovely advice,
path down,
actually.
and it gets a lot better. And you can be a lot happier. Like I've found just from acknowledging it and accepting it more, and saying, actually, this is who I am. I I've had a lot more positive experiences from it.
Brilliant. That's absolutely perfect. That's lovely advice.
I think that with any sort of special educational needs, especially in the workplace, it's a lot more almost accepted within that kind of working society than what it used to be.
Yeah.
I think now is a brilliant time to do it because you've got access to so many different tools that can help. Like even simple tools like spell check on Word, that's helped me with spelling a lot because suddenly I don't write down the word and then just think, yeah, that looks right. Yeah. And then suddenly in my mind, that's the right spelling every time. Using technology and the kind of opportunities that it brings, being able to spell out a word and then see, right, okay, that's wrong. Yeah. I'll get it wrong a few times, I'm not going to get it right straight away, but after typing it a lot, suddenly that sticks. Yeah. And I found that just embracing technology and a lot more into my working day has helped me tremendously. Yeah. And it also gives, stuff like LinkedIn and it's a great platform for connecting with people that are like-minded or have a different skill and share. Yeah. Like I chose to do mine online and kind of reveal to everyone I am dyslexic. Yes, I know everyone knows, but I chose that platform of LinkedIn because it was good for careers and work stuff. Yeah. And it allowed it to be shared quite vastly and quite quickly. Yeah. And with something that is not negative in a working environment. Yeah. It got a lot of praise on board for it. Yeah. It made a lot more people aware than if I just said to someone. Exactly. And I think stuff like, I know there's a lot of stuff online about likes and comments and stuff, and a lot of cyberbullying and stuff. Yeah. But I think when you use it in the right way, there are also a lot of positives that could come out of it. So a lot of people will like it, sharing it, saying, "Oh, thank you so much for it." And reading comments like that really just boosts your self-confidence and accepting of who you are. Yes.
That's brilliant. That's really lovely advice as well. So you did mention some tech there as well. Any other tips that you can provide someone potentially in school or even in work around things that potentially you might use that's helped you?
Yeah, so I think in schools, definitely using technology is a big must at the moment because there's a lot around, not only just in workplace when you get their digital skills and training up, but I think I'm quite envious of the youth of today, which sounds really weird coming from me because
still in the youth.
Still in the youth, but I think that in those lower years they've got a lot more tools and stuff accessible to them, which means that they can skill up digitally a lot quicker than I can. Like I'm not afraid to say I can't code at all, but my younger brother who's 6 years younger than me can code completely, and that's just learned in schools. And I think it's really exciting to be someone young in the education system today. Yes. Because of that. And I think if you've got special educational needs, it's even better because there's so many accessible tools in there, like just in the Microsoft Office package that you get, stuff like spell checker, but you also get stuff in there like accessibility checker, which means that if you're a teacher, just by clicking that button, it will check all your slides and make sure that they're accessible to everyone. And if there's anything in there that's a bit too wordy or could be simplified, it'll let you know and say, actually, this could be way simpler and then everyone in your class will understand.
That's really beneficial for teachers as well to look into that bit more detail.
Yeah, and it's not just about the children, it's about what teachers have as their kind of tools. Yeah. Because as I say, a lot of my teachers didn't pick up on it or just felt that I was getting good enough grades. And it wasn't until one of my teachers actually said to me, "Have you ever thought you might be dyslexic?" And that's what spiraled it all off, just one teacher making a almost off the fly comment. Yeah. And it's stuff like that which, if you can identify it earlier, I think there's a lot more support there for kids to get along with. Yeah. Like I found a lot of my passion came from technology, so I researched a lot into it in my own spare time at school, and I think that's what helped me almost revise and keep on track with academic grades and stuff and achievements. Whereas there's a lot of kids that are into tech and it seems quite nerdy almost, and they don't want to touch it. They want to stay with kind of sports, which is completely fine. But then they're almost losing out on those accessibility features and stuff that can help them keep with their academic progress, which they're missing out because of negative stereotypes and correlations, which isn't the case. Whereas if a school can identify it earlier, suddenly those kind of tools can come in and it's not seen as I'm spending my own time on this. It's more of the school's helping me, and they're more likely to do it.
That's perfect. Yeah, so that's potentially, as time goes on, there's more tech and there's more things available to the younger generation, or everyone, I guess. Yeah. The more sort of maybe potentially that those with dyslexia, their difficulties again, there'll be further support as time goes on, which is perfect, and hopefully the hope for everybody rather than just education as well as the workplace. Hopefully, all we can wish is that there's more support, it comes out further and further over the years, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
No, thank you very much for having me.